Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar with CEEMAN Champions. This is the second webinar we're organizing in the series of webinars that we are doing this year, this time with champions in responsible management education. My name is Tjasa Cankar, and I am a project manager at Seaman. And this year I am taking over the organization of CEEMAN Champion Awards. Maybe just to give it a bit of a context, Seaman Champion Awards has started in Seaman in 2010. And it is an initiative that has an aim of showcasing the outstanding and amazing results in 4 categories. First one is in teaching, then we have research, then we also have school leadership, and the one that we will hear about today, the responsible management education. I would also like to use this opportunity to tell you that CEEMAN Champion Awards 2022 are open for nominations. And I would like to invite all the participants to consider applying. And if you have any questions regarding the awards, you can point to the CEEMAN website, which you see on the screen, or you can write directly to me at the email that is also written on the screen, and I will post both of these links also in the chat later on. Now to today's webinar. The webinar will be moderated by wonderful Marina Schmitz. She is a lecturer at Coca-Cola chair at IADC Bled School of Management. And her LinkedIn profile says that she is a passionate educator and sustainability enthusiast. So I'm sure that she will lead a very informative and interesting debate. So without further ado, I would like to ask Marina to officially start the webinar.
Thank you so much, Tjasa. Also, thank you so much to Seaman for having me moderate the session. I'm more than delighted to have 2 wonderful speakers with me in this session today. Of course, Daniil Muravskii and Jaliyyah Bello. So thanks so much for being with me today. And I'm sure we will learn a lot from each other, and the audience can be very much looking forward to both of your presentations and insights. Before we, however, get to the presentations, and I'm sure everyone is super excited, let me just walk you through some brief background information to our 2 speakers. And usually I would say ladies first and start with Jaliyyah, but we decided to go with the sequence of how our 2 speakers received the award. So as Daniil received the award in 2018, I start with him and his CV or brief introduction. Of course, for both of our speakers, I cannot give you the full overview of all of their marvelous achievements. My apologies for that, but I just wanted to pick out some highlights that I found especially noteworthy. And of course, for our speakers later on, if you have any questions also to our audience, please feel free to ask, and I'm sure we have a great conversation at the end. So let me first introduce Daniil to you. So he is an associate professor at the HSE Graduate School of Business at Higher School of Economics in Russia. And he is coming actually from a rich background in managing consulting projects for the largest international companies. And his teaching practice is actually characterized by aligning modern marketing science with current industry demand, which I find especially interesting. And that actually means he applies modern educational technologies such as gamification, blended format courses, flipped classroom approaches, and the like. I'm also a big fan of gamification, so I'm very much passionate in learning more about this. He's also the director of a digital marketing and online education studio. Maybe he is also later on a little bit kind to introduce us more to this phenomenal approach. And he managed the creation of numerous online courses for his colleagues and also large Russian companies. He's also the founder of MOST, so Mobile Students. And this is actually a student project targeted at creating friendly environment and accessible facilities in the sphere of higher education for people with restricted mobility. So thank you so much for having you today. But before we give the floor to you, Daniil, let me also briefly use a few minutes to introduce Jaliyyah today. So Jaliyyah actually received the Responsible Management Educator of the Year award in 2021. She is an assistant professor in finance in the School of Economics, Finance and Accounting at Coventry University in the UK. And she also serves as Director of International Partnerships and is a Sustainability Champion for the Faculty of Business and Law. And she's also co-founded the Coventry University Education for Sustainable Development Working Group. I'm also excited here to learn more, which actively engages in supporting staff to embed sustainability into their teaching. I guess that must be quite a challenge. So she's also a member of the university's Ethical Investment Working Group, contributing to the delivery of the university's ethical investment policy. And she's also current member of the United Nations Prime Climate Change and Environment Working Group, and also a member of the Association of Commonwealth Universities Higher Education and Sdgs Network. Thanks to both of you for taking the time. And without further ado, I would like to invite Daniil to our virtual floor. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Melina, for the introduction. It was quite an introduction. So yes, my name is Daniil, and I'm an associate professor from the Higher School of Economics University Graduate School of Business. So I was asked to basically tell you my story of how I got to the champion, to get in the champion award in 2018, and then also discuss, well, what happened afterwards with relation to the activities which were awarded last time. I'll try to be quick, however, I'm usually bad at it, frankly saying. So I never considered myself an educator in responsible management. I still don't. But everything started 10 years ago when I got my first position in education. I had some manager experience elsewhere in the industry, but this was my first position in university, and I was vice D. And on the first day, in the first 2 minutes of my first day in a new university, in a new city where I knew nobody, the dean gave me a piece of paper written in hand, saying that hey, my daughter has restricted mobility. She is in a wheelchair. She comes to study in the bachelor program, your bachelor program, in 3 weeks. Please make sure that she's comfortable. And I am in a 5,000 people campus in the middle of Moscow, and nothing is there for the wheelchair, the mobile people with restricted mobility. There's like nothing there almost. And in 3 weeks, I have to make the campus ready for this new student with restricted mobility. And it was epic what was done. And it was a mutual effort with lots of people from various universities. There are like 9 buildings there, and there are managers for each building. And we started collaborating and talking, discussing how to do that in like in general, and just in the amount of time we had, but in general. And we managed to do that. And later on, during winter, I saw her, the student's name is Anya, and I saw her being carried on by 3 other students, her friends, across a snowy part of the road, like on the shoulder, the whole wheelchair. I mean, the wheelchair was on the shoulders. And they were having fun, having laughs. And it got me thinking, why it was 2012, I think. Why in 2012, this is the first time a wheelchair student came into the picture for this big university. So why is this the first time that happened? And we're starting to discuss that with Anya, her friends, the other students with normal mobility. And we figured out that there's this stigma related to the wheelchair. And it initiates fear and alienation from both sides. From the one side, there's this person with a certain mobility, a kid, basically out of school, whose life changed, or for some other reasons, he's in this situation. And he feels different, he feels alienated, he feels restricted. But from the other hand, there's those other students, those 5,000 students in the campus, who also don't feel quite comfortable, don't know how to deal with it, how to react to a person in a wheelchair. And we decided to do something about it with the guys, with the students of my business school at that time. And we created this concept that we have to fight the fear of the wheelchair. And instead of focusing the attention on the wheelchair, which is what many other initiatives across the world will actually do, like explain how to deal with the situation, how to treat students with restricted mobility, we decided we are not going to go there. We're going from the opposite way around. We're going to embed them in a way that everybody in the 5,000 people campus stopped noticing that the person is in the wheelchair. So we found beauty queens with restricted mobilities and integrated them into guest lectures, photographers, specialists. We made sports games of rugby on wheelchairs. And we fought the stigma by encouraging students to try on those sports wheelchairs and fight those other sports teams for the championship in this little game, which first was met with I'm going to a wheelchair and start fighting and competing with other real wheelchair people. But then in 5 minutes it stopped. And we had amazing results across the next several years. We had more wheelchair and various other people with different types of restricted mobility coming into the university, learning about the possibility to be a part of a community and not feeling alienated as they do that. So you see some pictures from the events we had. And we had some actually achievements as well in terms of how the campus was rearranged, in terms of how many people learned about those opportunities. And this is a large extent why I got this fabulous award. But what I want to emphasize right now is that the impact this made on the people which were engaged in the initiative. It appeared, and it was a surprise because I learned about it after they graduated, that the companies, the employers, they loved the fact that students which didn't have restricted mobility were involved in those projects, helped people in this situation, and just, were having fun with it. And they all got amazing jobs. And I'm not being frank because they told me that they received those first jobs mostly because of the involvement in this project. So I want to emphasize for those people who are thinking that those initiatives are mostly for the target audience of, for example, restricted mobility students, or for the school in general, or for a cause in general, it's also for like the particular benefits of all the students involved and all the people involved. There are lots of benefits of value there, which is visible to companies in various industries and countries. The other part for which I was nominated was for introducing green tech through gamification. I had a course on international marketing, which had nothing to do with green technologies like at all. But then, because I'm a specialist in gamification, I decided, what if I give them the task to compete, to study the greenness of particular technologies and fight for their effect, to argue for their effectiveness and argue for their value without making it the point of the course, without making it a lecture on ESG or CSR. And then those techniques were integrated into the curriculum and to the course very smoothly. So they didn't realize it until the end, when the course ended in actually a conference on ESG, where they presented the results. And somebody then told me, oh, so it was an ESG project. And this embedding of important issue into something mundane, kind of hiding them, right? We're talking about hidden champions a lot in CEEMAN. So hiding those practices inside what we do might bring even better results than just putting the highlight, the emphasis on them in some cases. If I still have a couple of minutes, I would like to talk about what is going on now. So I moved on from that university and business school to higher school of economics quite recently. And I moved to a position of academic director of a bachelor program. And I started to think about the curriculum, about the possibility of embedding those issues, those practices, those exercises, this information, not just into a course, not just into an extracurricular activity, but to the whole curriculum in general. And what we did, which is quite innovative for high school of economics in general, and also in quite a few European schools as well, as we were told by the FMD accreditation, which we received in December for the maximum years, partly because of those initiatives, is that we took and put the corporate social responsibility in the very, very beginning. It was basically the first class that the students in the bachelor program or business schools learn, instead of putting them in the middle or in the end, after they learn what management is, after they learn what marketing is. They start from learning that everything should be responsible, that you should think about various stakeholders, and then they learn what management is, and then they learn what marketing is. So they are embedded from the very, very beginning. We also, because they majored in marketing, we made this merger of their main first course on marketing with ESG by showing the continuation of how it applies to marketing. But what's extremely important is not just how we start, but how we check those competencies in the end, how we make sure that they integrate everything they learn afterwards with this. And here we decided, apart from the thesis that they have to defend in 4 years, they have to defend a social responsible project. So they have to actually go and create a social, be part of social entrepreneurship venture, or do engage in charity, or promote charitable causes, or do social marketing. And only then they can get the diploma and finish up the school. So we made this full circle from the very beginning, the first course they got, and the last one, which we're extremely proud of. And the very last point, very quickly, I'm sorry, COVID, is the CEEMAN Case Championship Award, and just the competition in general. I want to encourage everybody who's hearing me right now to engage. Because again, as I told in the beginning, I never thought myself as a responsible educator. But then I started to try in those competitions, actually won a runner-up at some point. And when I chose a case, I chose it to be important because of the criteria of the competition. And it made so much sense and so much interest to write those cases about women discrimination in sports market, about social responsibility in cosmetics market in COVID times. And once you have this case, it's that easy to embed it in the course and help others to embed them in the course. Here's how you do that, take it. And this is a great experience, which I would really recommend you to engage. And I'm engaging in this experience every year, starting from 2 years ago. And I'm extremely proud and happy of the results I have and the reaction I have for those cases as well. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you so much. You were perfectly in time, no rush there. So you are perfectly doing fine. And thanks for showing us such a variety of different projects, initiatives. I guess the audience has many questions, and just a brief remark here. So we will take all of your questions at the end. And I would like to invite Jaliyyah to our virtual stage next. She also has 15 minutes. After that, you can ask your questions to both of the speakers. So please, also to our audience, make sure to make good use of the Q&A function here in Zoom. And Jaliyyah, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Tough one to follow. Thank you, Daniel. Very interesting presentation, and I'm taking your advice on board to engage with the case study writing. So thanks for suggesting that. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you all for joining us. My name is Jaliyyah Bello. I am Assistant Professor, Director of International Partnerships and Sustainability Champion in the Faculty of Business and Law. Once again, thank you for the award, Seaman. It's such a great honor, and it's even greater honor to be here to share a few thoughts on my journey towards that recognition as the 2021 CEEMAN Responsible Management Educator of the Year. So I'll begin with my inspiration. A lot of people do ask what is my inspiration, what inspires me, even colleagues. For me, inspiration comes from many places, from growing up seeing poverty as well as wealth, from home, listening to my mom talk about the weather, saying it's climate change, and indeed the science is clear. And from the fact that I'm blessed to be in a learning environment with diverse group of people, young minds, current and future leaders. All of these are inspiration, they are inspirational to me. So everything I've done that I have achieved or that we have achieved collectively, for me, it could not have been possible without my community. And my community are my colleagues, and my community are students, they are learners, and they are also the online community and the networks we join and we learn from. So I started out as someone who just talks about the little I know on sustainability, to awareness campaign with online communities, to SDGs awareness campaign in preparation for their adoption with online community as well, then working with colleagues from different units of the university, co-founding the Education for Sustainable Development Working Group, and then becoming the pioneer lead, SDGs lead within the School of Economics, Finance and Accounting, still while championing sustainability, working with colleagues from different units of the university. So you can see everyone contributed to this award. So thank you again very much for this wonderful contribution. I'll just be sharing a few activities with you, and these are international facing activities. Some of the work we do on integrating sustainability into curriculum, and we did try to map them to the principles for responsible management education and the SDGs. I'll talk about SDGs Challenge 2021. This ran from May to June, and the SDGs Challenge 2021 was in collaboration with Ghana Communication Technology University, University of Western Parana, University in Brazil, and University of Pretoria. The theme for this event was sustainable cities, and we asked, how can economies effectively prepare, how can cities effectively prepare for economic shocks? We asked that participants should bring this into perspective by considering the pandemic, climate change, inequality. So we had three teams. Team Parana, addressing this task in the city of Parana. Team Coventry, addressing the task in the city of Coventry. And Team Accra, addressing the task in the city of Accra. With each team has got students from the three participating institutions, and it was a multidisciplinary team and cross-cultural. We had mentorship from the University of Pretoria. All mentors, we had 10 mentors, and all mentors are experts in sustainability and alumni of the Albert Lutuli Leadership Institute at the University of Pretoria. We had 3 fantastic projects during the live session. Digital multidisciplinary educational platform by Team Accra, growing communities, urban agriculture by Team Parana, and digital platform for sustainable tourism by Team Coventry. So that's the SDGs Challenge 2021. Then we had the SDGs module Audit. This looked at, we did this in the summer of 2020, and the aim was to evaluate SDGs coverage and to help colleagues embed sustainability into curriculum. We collected data such as the module size, number of people. We looked at intended learning outcomes. We looked at indicative contents through series of audit meetings. and we were able to make recommendations to colleagues, and I think it went well. So this and many more on this screen are just a few of what we have done in the last 2 years, but I'm picking this out as international. Most of them are international facing events. So if you do have any question about any of them, please do feel free to ask me, because I'll be moving on to what I've been able to do with my colleagues since CEEMAN Award. Since CEEMAN Award, we participated in the Principles for Responsible Management Education COP26 campaign, the carbon literacy chain. And so I delivered training to a small group of academics from Mexico, India, and Coventry, delivered the carbon literacy training. And we are grateful, very grateful to Prime for inviting us, and indeed to the Climate Change and Environment Working Group for empowering us to be able to do this. A couple of more events on the screen there. We have Candidates for Change campaign of students organizing for sustainability. And in our Africa Center, we were able to have a conversation in collaboration with Coventry University Investment Society and the UN Regional Commission networks. This conversation was quite interesting one. We had keynote session and a panel session with business leaders and entrepreneurs. Discussion, of course, touched on Africa Union Agenda 2063, ESG, FinTech, pandemic, and post-pandemic era. We have more events there. For instance, ESG session with University Fund Manager, carbon footprint session for international partner. Our immediate future events is the annual Green Week, which is coming up in March. Our annual Green Week is a partnership, is in collaboration with the University of Warwick, Coventry City Council, Warwick District Council, our Students' Union, and the community. We have lots of activities, and I'll be happy to share the calendar once I get it across to me. We also have the Coventry Business School Sustainability Virtual Field Trip coming up. This will be in June. Student voices. It is important for us to know what our students are thinking. It is important for us to check if learning is taking place. So these are just a few. This is talking about simple changes that allow for huge improvement. This is talking about realizing that green finance, which is one of the projects we did early January 2021, green finance and accountability is not directly linked to their course, but they've realized that is in any career and daily life. This is talking about individual responsibility, and that's a score. Realizing that we can all contribute to a more sustainable future. So it's not just about the society or investors, individual responsibility also matters. And lastly, this is talking about our impact on the environment. It's really important for us to know how we are impacting the environment. So this is just few student voices, and we think with this, probably I think we are on the right track with comments like this from our students. At the beginning, I have introduced myself as Director of International Partnerships. So this role sits within the global engagement portfolio of my faculty. And the heart of our portfolio is our transnational education, TNE, and our TNE partners. We work closely with them, sharing resources, holding co-creation capacity building sessions. We are a global university. We're breaking barriers to access to education and learning through innovative means like the collaborative online international learning COIL and virtual mobility. Non-partner institutions can actually join us on COIL or virtual mobility. So this way we are extending our resources, we're extending knowledge and learning. These activities led to this mapping, These are our key prime principles and SDGs. Doesn't mean we do not cover any other ones, we do. These are the key ones focused to the objectives of my portfolio. I thought this is cute to have this here. They are logos of our partners from 2021. Fidelity International, Uniestate, the University of Western Parana, Student Organizing for Sustainability, the Africa Conversation we had in collaboration with the Coventry University Investment Society and the UN Regional Office at New York, the Carbon Literacy Training Chain, Ghana Communication Technology University, University of Pretoria, State University of New York at Albany, SUNY, and of course, we participated in the first ever Carbon Literacy Action Day, which held on the 1st of November. Some takeaways. We don't need a formal role to advocate for sustainability. We're all beneficiaries and we should all consider ourselves partners towards a more sustainable futures. If you don't know where to start from, I would say use the SDGs. There's everything for everyone in there. They provide a framework for government, business, groups, individuals. So you can use the SDGs in your sphere of influence. I am in an academic environment. I can talk to colleagues. You might be somebody that is more linked to the community. So use the SDGs if you don't know where to start from. Visibility. This is very important. We can't be what we don't know or what we don't see. So we need to be visible to our students, to our learners. It might be just a single line at the end of your email that says, please consider the environment before printing this email. Or that a student walks into a building and sees principles for responsible management on screens or SDGs or sustainability. Let them see and let them ask questions, but they have to know that this exists. Then, of course, join networks. I have found joining networks and attending free webinars online to influence my practice positively. So I encourage everyone to maybe join networks or attend free webinars, and don't do sustainability alone. Remember the slogan for SDGs, leave no one behind. Start doing something, someone will find you, or you will find people that you have common interest with. Finally, this is the William Morris building. It dates to early 20th century, and in 1923, it was bought by William Morris, car entrepreneur. They use it as their engine unit, and it is now the proud home of our business school. So you're all virtually welcome to Coventry University Business School. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jaliyyah, for this comprehensive presentation on all of the beautiful things that you are doing. And wow, what a list. Very, very much appreciated from my side. And before I start into my questions that I've noted down, I see that we have already some questions for you in the chat. So I might as well start with those first. So how about I read it out to you? So the question is addressed to you both, and it's from Sladina. Considering you are both dealing with extremely relevant issues in your work, what would your wish be, your message to all the educators around the globe? What would be, for example, 3 simple steps that we all as educators can do to promote or raise those issues? So how can we actually walk the talk? Yeah, that's probably a pretty challenging question. So maybe I could pass it on to Daniil first.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a question worthy of a book. But I just want to maybe put a parallel with gamification. You know, in games, we have kind of our goal, the goal of game designers, let's say, to involve as much as people as possible, just like with social responsibility and ESG principles. And however, it's extremely important to understand that different people play differently and are willing to engage because of different motivations. And for some people like myself, I feel uncomfortable in roundtables and areas filled with the Greta Thunbergs of the educational world. And if our goal is to communicate the message as far as possible, we need to take this into account and maybe look for different options, different methods of getting inspired, of seeing examples, of not maybe necessarily social entrepreneurships, but how the big companies, which you don't really associate with those issues, that for them, those issues, those activities are normal practice. Or other people for whom, let's say, recycling and the stuff is normal practice. And then it kind of helps you switch your mind, be it a type of player which you are. So the suggestion is to think broadly about those issues, and understanding that sometimes you don't have to be loud. You just you might be quiet, but on point, and inspire people to communicate with others, because that's what drives the community and also the individuals.
Perfect. Yeah, thanks so much. Jaliyyah, what is your response to this?
I agree with Danny. Of course, we need to inspire people. There are different groups of people. Some is easy, they have access, and some do not have access. We have to go to them. So it's quite challenging. And based on some of the projects that I have done, I'm reflecting on those, is that I'm unable to have some join those online collaborative online international learning projects because of access. So there is that challenge is there. We probably need to identify how we can contribute, not just to learning environment, to communities as well. Doing online campaign a few years ago, maybe 2015, I found out that those people that we communicate online have people they communicate with in the society that do not have access to maybe internet. And then there is localization. Sometimes we need to speak to people in the language they understand, and that we need to localize all those global frameworks to our community, how it relates to people. I recall when the SDGs came out, one of the things we did with my online community is to translate the SDGs into local languages so that people will understand what they actually mean. So there is the need for us to identify how we can communicate with the community who are not directly in our sphere, like academic environment. And there's a need for us to localize frameworks so that those people will engage with us on the same level. I will say that the challenge can also be found in the learning community where we are. So just visibility to me, it's really important. And also seeing how some of these practices influence life, it's important, very important. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Follow-up question from the chat. What is currently your biggest challenge in this whole process? Maybe I can first start with Jaliyyah here. You mentioned already some challenges, but yeah, what is maybe your biggest challenge overall when you reconsider, some of the projects, probably some of them were facing similar challenges. You mentioned also the international aspect. I can imagine that this is quite a challenge. Also reconsidering sustainability, it's very diverse interpretations, differences across the globe. I would be very curious to know this.
Challenge comes is multifaceted. So in my direct environment, I faced a lot of challenges doing some of the work I did, because first of all, we got into COVID in the last 2 years, and 2020 just made it a little bit difficult, like during the module audit, to have a group conversation with people. So that's one kind of challenge. Another kind of challenge is leadership. Perhaps we need our leaders to champion some of these things in front of us, and we are seeing that happen, but probably we need to be a little bit more, I wouldn't say aggressive, I just want to use the word more visible. about that. We need to push. We can never, it's sustainability. We can never push enough. We just have to keep trying. Resources is a challenge. And for me, it's a big challenge because I come from Nigeria, and I'm just thinking the asymmetry, you know, so it might be that a lot is happening there, but there's also a lot not happening. So it might be that we need that ground relationship with people, connecting more with people to be able to address some of the challenges. When I'm running some of my projects that are extracurricular, I face another challenge, which is students can drop out. So it does happen in a lot of challenges. And when that happens, I wonder why it happens, why it's happening, if I can convince the student. But because they're extracurricular and no credit for some of them, I can't really push on that perspective. I think that there's a lot we can do to have maybe a peer-to-peer sessions, learn from each other on how we can identify key challenges and how we can address them.
Perfect. Over to Daniil about the biggest challenges that you can come up with yourself.
It would be hard to follow, but I just wanted to comment that recently I believe that the biggest challenge was to find a way to interest the students, to make them make them inquire about those various issues, especially nowadays where we all focus on ourselves because we are restricted, we are here in online constantly, we don't communicate, socialize that much. But it was an experiment a couple of months ago. I integrated a writing case study in one of my courses on any topic, on any company. And well, I figured that one or two cases might be about something concerning social responsibilities or groups of vulnerable people. All of them, with the exception of couple, were dedicated to discrimination based on gender, on sexuality, on race. And we're talking about Russia, where lots of things are illegal, which should not be illegal, and some practices are normal, which should not be normal. And students are willing to talk about it. And I'm so glad that it's no longer a challenge. However, what is a challenge is to learn, well, for me to learn how to talk to them about those issues. Because for me, I'm still green in that sense. I'm not sure how to talk in a classroom on marketing or marketing management about issues related to discrimination, about feminism, myself being a male, and the such. And this is one of very interesting, I think, directions that educators must, go, must strive and think about. And I think it's exciting at some level as well.
Thank you so much for voicing this. And I just wanted to mention, because you just brought up the topic feminism yourself, I mean, your role couldn't be more valuable to the whole discussion and debate. I think it's challenging also for our male colleagues to jump in and join these discussions. But I think it's a very valuable voice to share also in this dialogue and share the different perspectives. And so I'm appreciating that you're thinking about how you can address this in the classroom. And it's a topic that is of a concern to all of us. And we, of course, speaking here as a female, we seek more male allies here in the debate. And it's wonderful that you are thinking and sharing this in the classroom. So thanks for that. But over to our audience now. So I have another question from Miguel. So greetings to Peru here. These initiatives are really wonderful. Please, what do you think are the main barriers or constraints to overcome in order to gain scalability for them and mobilize these projects and their outcomes in other universities, locations, and social groups? And how can we work to overcome these barriers? I think both of these questions can be also addressed to both of you. Who wants to start? Jaliyyah, do you want to go first? Or Daniil, do you want to go first? Should I rephrase the question again? Do you?
Yeah, please read the question again.
Yeah, sure. Okay, what do you think are the main barriers or constraints to overcome in order to gain scalability and mobilize these projects and their outcomes into other universities, locations, and social groups? So maybe starting with this one.
Oh, we need funding, don't we?
Yeah, so of course, Jaliyyah, you have been making a first effort in internationalizing and collaborating already with other partners. So I think this is one form of scalability that Miguel is probably interested in, but maybe you can elaborate beyond the partnerships that you have formed already.
Yes, of course, I'm happy to do that. And that's why our two main innovative means, COIL, Collaborative Online International Partners, and Virtual Mobility, we can work with anybody on this. And I'm happy to have a chat with Miguel at some other time. But I think it's important for us, the way we present this project to students, we present to them as, this is important, you have to do this, and you have to learn sustainable skills for sustainable futures, anticipatory thinking, self-awareness, and so on. And so we have students that actually are interested rather than forcing them to do it. But we want to scale, as Miguel has raised, and to do that, we'll need partnership with people who have the links somewhere else that we've not been. And we might have to put some funding into place. And that's why I said we need funding, don't we? And arrange how this can happen. Surprisingly, the first hackathon we did in 2020, which I didn't discuss, was actually online, 24 hours, and it was early 2020 before COVID lockdown. So we had people collaborating online for 24 hours, but internet was an issue. So that's another thing, Miguel, maybe if we can have a little bit of stability of internet resources, that would be good. All come down to funding, leadership, peer-to-peer, and identification of where we want to go into. And I like the point raised by Daniil on how to address some issues. Sometimes where we come from, or our gender, or our race, makes it a little bit of a challenge to address some issues. So representation, let's have different people from different places and work together. With the climate change, somebody has shared a document with me on how to discuss climate change with other people. So those kind of things, maybe we can work together and bring something up on how to address certain issues. Is that a good enough answer, Miguel, for now?
I think so, but maybe Daniil, do you want to add anything to that? Also maybe to Miguel's second part of the question in regards to best practice advice on how to overcome the barriers that maybe Jaliyyah has already mentioned. Any advice from your side would be highly appreciated.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm not sure that it's good advice, but I think that in many cases, those initiatives, the value, I don't know, the support comes from above. And I've been so lucky to have various rectors and deans very involved in the topic. And I could imagine that in cases partially where funding is lacking and there's no support from the big guys, the directors, the deans, you feel that you have to fight, that you have to pool resources and pool attention. I think it's extremely important in our case that it's actually pushed from above. This, in many cases, might be the only solution for making the practice wider. And in that case, again, I'm lucky, so I don't know whether it's advice or not, but maybe if you are with your initiative, with your ideas, choosing university to go through, make sure that the dean or rector is on the same point, because if not, you will have those problems throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If I may add to what Daniil said, as he was talking, something just came to my mind, that if we're able to teach people in that community, then they can carry it up and continue to teach, sort of spreading, cascading that as well. So maybe one thing we need to do is to mentor those that will carry on teaching other people in communities as well. So, and also working with the local communities. In some countries, before you engage into community, you talk to leaders of the community. You know, you talk to district heads and so on. So we can engage civil society organizations and so on. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for adding this. Yeah, thinking also about, let's say, scalability, motivation of different people to engage on these topics. I was wondering, because I wrote it down when you were speaking, Daniil, you don't consider yourself a responsible educator. So you said that once or twice, I believe. And I found it quite interesting. So because you also said, yeah, marketing is maybe not kind of the most green field you can think about when you think about, let's say, sustainable development and so on. Whereas I felt that from Jaliyyah, she was always like, yeah, speaking about sustainable development a lot. I can also see your little badge here with the SDGs. And so I'm very much interested for both of you, and starting with Daniil here first. What is your personal motivation, and how is your relationship, so to speak, to the field of sustainability, sustainable development? As I have the impression, at least, that you come from different perspectives on this discussion, and I would love to hear about your personal stories.
I don't know, it's growing on me, and I love the fact that it does. And I'm excited to watch it grow on me and me paying attention to some stuff, because as you correctly noticed, my comment about marketing, I used to give the social ethical concept of marketing from the point of view that, hey, some big companies spilled oil in the ocean and the financial pyramids were dumping the economy. Therefore, the big universities had to introduce social responsibility courses so that nobody could blame them that they didn't try. So that was my very, I don't know, skeptical position with regard to that era and that concept related to that. However, as I went on, and a lot, like, again, returning to the case writing, because it really gives lots of perspective on what was in the mind of the real people when they created some offensive advertising or thought about social responsibility, even though it was not in their financial interest and this kind of stuff. You see that it's part of other people's lives, and you start thinking about why it isn't a part of your life. And I guess that's my take. And I think it's a journey I'm on. And again, it's a big challenge for me, honestly, to talk about the issues. I still don't know how to do that. I gave it from a funny advertising perspective. Let's talk about whether it offends you or not. But I would like to go deeper, and I would like to learn how to do that as well. And I would love if the 50 professors which work in my program would also be able to talk to students about those issues. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, thanks for sharing these very personal insights. Jaliyyah, what is your perspective on that, and how have you been growing with the topic?
I am growing, and there's still a lot more growing to do. I don't consider myself an expert at all. I consider myself as someone who is still learning, and learning along with people around me. Yes, I do advocate for sustainability. I gave a little bit of my journey at the beginning, how just start to talk about what I see, because growing up, I was saying I grew up seeing poverty as well as wealth. So it wasn't just one side of it. And also here from my home, my mom always talking about climate change. So for me, that is how it started, from my own community to advocate for sustainability. I don't consider myself an expert, but I just feel like maybe I have a role to play. Maybe I can tell somebody who doesn't know about it, and maybe I can learn from somebody, and that's where I am. That's the place where I am right now. It's such a huge impact that I'm being considered for this award, because the things that were probably submitted for these awards are things I enjoy doing, are things I just like to do. I find it interesting. So to be recognized for that, not things that I'm being forced to do because of my job role, not at all. Many of them are voluntary. So it's just something I enjoy doing because of the relevance of that, because of where we are in the world and where we're going to, where we want. I don't consider my great-grandchildren alone to be the beneficiaries of a more sustainable world. I feel like all of us, where we stand now, we're beneficiaries as well as partners. That's how I view myself.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always inspiring for me to hear the stories of other people, because I have been slowly growing into the topic, and yeah, I also took multiple turns to really settle in with the topic, but now I feel really at home, so to speak, in this discipline. But we have another question here in the chat. So how can we align sustainability with profits across both corporations and academic institutions? There has been a steep change in the recognition of the impact of climate change, but there still seems to be a lot of greenwashing going on. Maybe I would like to start with Daniil, if you won't mind, in regards to thinking about greenwashing. I had the impression that you also were a little bit more skeptical with the topic at first, probably because of its relationships or its roots in marketing or PR whatsoever. Maybe you could have a first try to share with us your perspective on the question.
I think that one of the reasons why greenwashing was, and still is, let's be frank, so popular, let's say in Russia, is because there were few people who were able to, finger it and say, hey, the king is naked. And I mean, it's not sustainability. And when you kind of encourage this discussion and you educate and you support people who are able to tell, and you also create a community where people would like to share their practices, which would immediately make it obvious who's greenwashing, who's doing something real. You can tell just by the way they're speaking. You don't have to look at the papers. And by creating this community, by strengthening it, I think that that's a way to fight, at least fight the urge or the associations of ESG, CSR in general, with something done for the PR instead of something which should be done. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Jaliyyah, is there anything you want to add to this?
I think having measuring impact success criteria when it comes to academia in places is a good way to start. And when it comes to corporations, maybe when we have things like sustainability risk measurements are more aligned to the corporations. And indeed, what Daniil said is true. People are probably jumping on that, almost creating a sustainability bubble, almost creating that. And if there are measures in place, it can cop that. People could see who is doing well and who is not doing well. Some platforms are beginning to have ESG scoring that you can go and you can dig up a company and you will see compared to its peers how that company is doing. So it's becoming mainstream, and I think that it will only increase in the future. The visibility of that will only increase in the future. In terms of academia, we need to know how we can identify success criteria, and we just don't look at the broad topic. We need to look at what is being taught, and if those things being taught are being assessed as well. just looking at the time, so I'll stop
Yeah.
there. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think measurement and assessment is a big step forward to really, supporting the claims that are being made out there. Being mindful of time, I see we only have like 1 more minute left. So let me quickly wrap up and say thank you to both of our excellent speakers. It was, truly insightful, inspiring to see how much you are dedicated to the topic and how many projects you have been already pushing forward. I am very sure that there are many more to come. I wrote on a couple of things: seeking out and connecting to your communities, increasing visibility for the topic, also finding your own voice are some of the many recommendations you shared with us today. And I want to say thank you to all of you, to the audience, to you as speakers, and of course to Tiasha and the Seaman community. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Marina.
everyone.
Thank you very much, Jaliyyah, and thank you very much, Daniil. It was Jaliyyah said that it was an honor for her, but I think that it was also an honor for us to listen to you, for your inspiring reflections. I'm sure that the audience also got inspired, so I would just like to once again promote the CEEMAN Champion Awards for 2022. Apply. Exactly. Thank you, Daniil. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.